nation.
So we'd have to go back that far.
They're here.
Yeah.
They're still here.
Yeah. While we're here.
We're still here.
We're here.
Yeah, exactly. We're here.
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah.
No, and I tell people to think about it. I'm like, that's why it's important, because I hear that a lot. Like this is tradition, but see, when you think about indoctrination, that means that nobody has a basis of who they are. So when we think we're safe and we get too comfortable there and we don't challenge these things in the family, like I asked my grandma one time, and she was like, I was gonna get the 5 fingers across my face, because I told her, Grandma, Jesus arrived here in 1492. No, mijo, no, don't tell that, because the Virgin Mary is gonna, she's gonna get you when you die and you get up there. But I understood her, and I understood that exception was just the first step of indoctrinating all of us into it, and never once ever talking. Because I tell people, we're not here to, change you. We're here to give you the information, and as a person, you choose where you want to go, because that's what was taken from you, choice. You have no clue of how powerful you are in your indigenous mindset. That when you look back at what we're doing in the city of LA right now, the communities of Palo Verde, La Loma, and Bishop were actually doing everything that the city is trying to do today. They want you to build a garden. They want you to be more environmentally friendly. How more friendly were we, where we had a commerce, we had businesses in the neighborhood, we had our street vendors that sold ice, and the fruit vendor and the meat, and then we had the people who owned homes. I mean, this was a place, and this is the time, which is important, in which this predates the Mexican-American movement. This history is not talked about. This predates it. And another good point about it is that we actually went to trial for this, and people don't even know that. And the Superior Court judge even said it was a very
gross overuse
use of eminent domain.
And that the contract needed to be null and void.
Yep, and they took it up to the California Supreme Court.
And the Dodgers appealed it and pushed it to get it. So when they say they didn't know, or blame the city, you can't. You know what I'm saying? You have to hold them all accountable. So that's why we're like, nobody's getting away free.
When we go back and look for records, we'll find records.
You'll find them. And you don't even, I tell people this, you don't even need to go back. Just look in your neighborhood. And that's why sometimes maybe go in your block and just have a little gathering, a little picnic in the neighborhood, and just say, look, how are you doing on rent? I know you're making $40,000, $50,000 an hour, but how are your finances? You're going to find that a lot of people are stressing out because, like me in elected office right now, the median income in our city right now is matched at $70,000. And I don't know a lot of people that make that, which means that everything that's being constructed right now, buildings, rent, is being based on these false numbers.
So what is it? Is because the gap is that much?
It's not that it's that much. What happens is there's a lot of investment money here. Just like at the time of the Dodgers, right? We're talking 1949. In 1949, we have the housing authority built, right? And then they come out and they're like, we're going to fund it, and we need an area to do a project so we can build what this affordable housing was going to be. And then they pick, they're looking at sites, and here's Palo Verde, La Loma, and Bishop. There's a good opportunity to come in and grab it. And then all of a sudden, you have a political shift with Norris Polson, and the people say, the hell with this. No different than today. Today, that fight we're having right now is called the NIMBY fight, not in my backyard. So these are homeowners that are saying, I will give you money, but don't put those kind of people near me. And so that money ends up going into what we see today in society, which is in the homeless part, which they basically wasted all our taxpayers' money without solving. They should have built affordable housing. And so I tell people it's a vacuum unless you're involved to see this, because you're just looking at it and you say they're eyesores. Well, imagine what the city's doing to you when they're saying, hey, that homeowner there, been there too long. And I need to send people in there because we need that house, because you know what? They don't know that if I buy that single dwelling home and now with zoning goes up and you can build 7 stories now, that means that home, now that building is probably worth 5 times more than what they're giving you.
So how do you fight that? Like if that's going up next door to you, how do you fight that?
Well, once the building is be put in, there's ways to fight it in zoning with appealing, but that costs money. And that becomes a legal process, right? Fighting it from the ground zero grassroots is educating the people in the community that own homes, get them financial education. They need literacy in that, because You may own a home, but you don't understand how much it's worth until somebody comes and they're like, hey, I can give you 800,000, no problem. Not understanding that it's not normal real estate, that these people, your zoning change, which means that every story goes up, you're adding like twice as many people that paid $3,000-$4,000. So
and
now
the
the
city's
investment
looking at as that's more taxes per capita, and that one lot is now getting 5 times the taxes.
And that was the reason for Palo Verde, La Loma, and Bishop, was that we had this land, now there's no housing, right? And so now we're basically going to say, well, look what the Dodgers are doing. You know, they're going to bring taxes in. Yeah. And at the end of the day, what do we know about corporations? No pagan. They don't pay it.
They're lining their pockets.
I mean, Trump said it best. I don't pay taxes, you know? And I tell people, think about those things that we're talking about, because at the end of the day, the homeless situation we have today, the affordable housing situation was created because of these bad policies. We're not there in office, and even sometimes they put brown faces there, but you can tell who is who because no one's talking the way we are. In my elected position, I use the word gentrification. I use the word green gentrification, and I oppose these projects. And sometimes it comes off like, hold on, you don't want affordable housing? Homie, I wouldn't put that in the neighborhood because in 50 years, your kids are going to be wiped out legally from there. So we can't participate in that. We need a system that's going to be held accountable in the city. So as a citizen, you can fight it. Because if you like East LA, and I think sometimes in my head, I look at all these posters, all this stuff that's been written about East LA and Whittier Boulevard. One day, you will be Palo Verde, La Loma, and Bishop. You will be praising those times and those pictures, but Whittier won't exist no more.
But it's the same thing like Echo Park, though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it comes in. So what is it? We got to stay and fight. I mean, because most people, like even like Echo Park, for example, most people just left. They couldn't afford it.
Well, this is where he's mentioned about that we have to educate ourselves and get involved, like through the neighborhood councils. We have to start. He says integrating. I say infiltrating. I say infiltrating, you know, and taking seats in the city council, all these different boards, so right? At LA Unified, all over, because again, why aren't we on these boards? Why aren't we making decisions?
Because we have to work.
Right, but a lot of the activists and all of that say that, you know, look at one of the highest forms of activism is being part of those organizations, sitting on these boards, okay? And so, like we talk about too, the civics is indigenous by design, right? These are the things that our ancestors made, the Iroquois Indians of democracy, right? They took it from us, the colonizers. So it's our duty and our responsibility to engage in the battlefield. And when you look back at our history, the only thing that we haven't done, I mean, we've done the protests, we've done this, we've done all these things, right? But we've never taken an active participating role in civics. Why not? And so, I mean, yeah, we can protest until our ears bleed, till we have no more voice. But again, we have to be at the table. We have
the way I look at it, with the way the politics now, it's almost like, do we have to phone our, like, we have to be our own, like, we have to hire lobbyists. Like, it's almost to that
It's not,
point,
why
right?
do we have to hire instead of do? Because even in that, you get paid to do those jobs.
But you get what I'm saying, like, to fight it, I think the
But nobody's going to fight with the
lobbyists-
passion that we have to do it for
But
ourselves.
I say the lobbyists in the current structure, the lobbyists will get more than a protest outside on the corner with some signs.
I always tell people that my mentor, you know, she was so important to the structure of what I know now in politics, especially being a brown person and being amongst mostly whites in the industry, was she always told me, a protest, you're going to beg the very people to have mercy on you. And you will not turn around yourself to say, hold on, how many Mexicans, how many Latinos, Centroamericanos are in California? You have always been the massive population. And you have to go back in history to understand that you've always been used. That's why I tell people, you know, when they come and bring you a turkey and a present, it's not because they love you. They've conditioned you now. You will give them the vote that'll give them the power through the democracy to be able now to displace you, to control you. And like most people will use and I won't say it's an excuse because it's a legitimate point, I gotta work. So the question is, what are you working for? What are you working towards? Because if you tell me the American dream and a home and a better life, then you understand nothing about the finances in the city. That's why I bring that point up about the area medium income. when you have a 70,000, if you're not making that now, and in reality it's projected to be 100,000, if you're not making that now, you probably won't be living in Los Angeles in the next 10 years.
And one more question about that. Is that, I was thinking, is that based on like, if the homeowner is a corporation, do they look at their income? Because I don't see 70,000.
No, they don't.
See where that number like.
That's why California is the only state that never fights it. Every other state fights those numbers because they're off. But the reasons why they don't fight it, it allows them to do in zoning to build luxury units. That's right. So see, like right now they're saying a 3,000 a month unit is affordable under 70,000, and it's not. Because when you're paying 30% over your income, you're in trouble.
Because it's something now is like you can build 300 units, and before it was like, 5%, 10% has to be low income. Now it doesn't even have to be, and like this is the highest homelessness we've seen, and that's not even. It's like null and void. Like
and this is not going to be the highest. Yeah. Right now, after the moratorium, what we're facing in the city of LA is that we have people that didn't get the money, that are going to be facing, because right now in our council, and we're spending tons of public money on it, is to defend those that are renting. That's why that confliction of like
a lot of raza were
predominantly
expecting the buyout. Like, oh no, the government will buy it out. Like, you know.
And another thing we always have to keep in mind, the same housing crisis that they told our families that we were encountering is the same one we're in now. 60 years later. It's not different. It's the exact same one of 60 years of doing nothing or the same thing. And again, like he said, once the moratorium, we're going to see an aspiration, like a jump of it of even more. So
yeah, we're seeing it now. And that's the sad part of it is that, in elective seats, we're seeing this data as it's coming out. You guys see it probably 2 or 3 months later when it's actually affecting your neighborhood. That's the sad part of it, right? And we often tell people, if we don't want to see these things, because it's not just about evictions. It's about the health effect that it has on all of us, because you're not going to see, what people would call a traditional houseless person, right? That is going to be having a drug issue or a mental issue. These are your neighbors that are like yourself, right? Like you may say this, like, I'm working. Yeah, but you're working, but you may be on the street and you have a job. You just cannot afford the rent.
Yeah, everybody's like, 2 checks away from it?
One paycheck away, and maybe not even that. Yeah, so I tell people that's why financial education is important. That causes awareness to understand your cultural issues and your purpose here as in a city, because you cannot just say I'm existing and this is more important to me, because one day you'll wake up and you're going to say, "Jeez, what the hell happened here?"
I promise last question. I mean, last question's been like 30 times.
No, it's okay, because I want to say something too.
Who's going to provide that financial education? Where do we get that financial education?
This is something that we're working, because we've taken that step to understand 501c3s and their importance. Me and Melissa have always talked about this, and I know the community sometimes will say, yeah, but that's a capitalist position, right? There's a lot of education that people need to understand the roots of what their understanding of a capitalist market is, and it's tied into some of the indigenous stuff. And that's a different podcast for a different day. Yes. But that's also, too, like she said, democracy. Most Latinos look at that, and indigenous people are like, hey, that's the white system. Remember one thing. When they arrived on this continent, they came from a monarchy. They did not come from a democracy. A king and queen, you were ordered and then killed if you didn't do it. Here, we had that democracy where we can speak amongst the tribes, right? And
that's where they took it from. That's right.
Exactly. This is why the story, like when you say
so
where the documents,
we have to reclaim.
Yeah. Go to Washington and go read the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution and the notes, and every president wrote about the Iroquois Indian on why it was good to have those discussions. Congress was designed after us. The Senate was designed after us. The presidency and the cabinet's designed after us.
So it's ours.
Yeah, but there's an interesting point that I tell people. When you go and look at a protest, so you understand where the state of mind of politics is at, you always hear everyone say this. It's the 1% versus the 99. My friends, you're in a monarchy. The illusion of democracy. Because the 1% is the king and queen that rule you. But in reality, think about it. The democracy that you're taught here is that if you have enough votes, it's mathematically, physically, and scientifically impossible for you to lose. But in the Latino's mind, he cannot win. He is convinced that he cannot win in an election and he cannot win by a landslide, even though the gringo comes to you for the vote, and has been doing it since they've incepted the Constitution. We've always been used for it. And I tell people, wake up. All you got to do is get into office. Don't care if you know how. That's the best elected official. Because you know what? You're going to lead by your heart. And I can promise you one thing in elected office, we don't have compassion. And when you lead by compassion, policies will come out. But when you lead through political stat like they have now, you're worried about who's going to like you, to where you're not going to step, where the Melissa's going to separate on the council from me or not.
Most of them are looking long term.
Yeah,
okay, well,
it's
if
like
I do this,
care.
I'm not gonna. It's gonna affect most politicians look at it as a career.
Exactly, and I look at it as if that's my family. If they're facing evictions, then it may hurt the owner or the market, right? But at this point, their health, safety, and welfare is an oath that I took to protect. I'm gonna protect it because that's what's necessary for their health, safety, and welfare in existence.
OGHUSKEY